God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Hi, this is Pastor Wanda with Victory Worldwide Ministries. Welcome back. Welcome back. Listen, come on and tune in. Come on, like, tag, and share as we're talking about, you know what I'm calling them, the last sermons that Jesus preached from the cross. Come on in, come on in, coming in as we get ready to jump into sermon number 2. If you've already tuned in for sermon number 1, the first sermon, I titled the sermon as You Gotta Do It. Because the first sermon was all about a spirit of forgiveness, which means at the end of the day, I don't care who hurt you, misused you, mistreated you. You have got to learn how to forgive. And let me tell you something, that is easier said than done. Truth. But Jesus preached it from the cross. But not only did he preach it, he did it. In spite of everything that was in front of him, he still had a spirit of forgiveness, because it's hard to not forgive people that just don't know. They don't have a clue of who you are and what God sent you to do. But this next sermon is probably one of the most favorite sermons. I really enjoy Jesus preaching from the cross. And it's the second sermon, and it's coming from Luke 23 and 43. And Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto you, today shall thou be with me in paradise. Keep in mind that Jesus is being crucified, and he's in the middle of two sinners. He's in the middle of two people that deserve to be there. And so I want you to understand, even with forgiveness, you didn't deserve to be hurt no more than Jesus deserved to be on the cross. But sometimes you've got to take the hand that you're being dealt, and you still got to make sure that God is glorified. You still have got to make sure that God gets the glory. And that's why I titled sermon number 2 as a sermon that, guess what? We have got to understand that we've got to do it until the end. You have got to be faithful until the end. You've got to do it until the end. You don't get to the end and get bitter or upset or I did this long enough. Jesus was true to his assignment until the very end. The first sermon was called You Got to Do It. The second sermon is called You Got to Do It until the very end. Listen, Jesus was in pain. He was being crucified. He's looking in front of him, and he see all these people that should be supporting him, and now they're in front of him. Why? And nobody's stopping him. I mean, and guess what he does? He still ministers. Whoa! How do you minister while bleeding? How do you minister while being broken? How do you still be Christ-like while you are going through? How do you open up your heart to still bless people and still hear their cries and still listen to them when you yourself are struggling, when you yourself are hurt, when you just barely made it out of the bed, you just barely made it to work, you just barely survived yesterday or last week, and here come these people talking about can you help me? Can I help you? I'm struggling myself. Jesus was on the cross being crucified with people that deserve to be there. I want you to understand, just because you don't deserve it, don't mean you can't handle it. You're going to make me run to the red light. Just because you don't deserve what you're going through, just because you don't deserve the suffering, just because you are a great person, you try and treat everybody right, just because you are in a season of brokenness does not mean that you are not equipped to handle the broken season and still open up your heart to receive and to be a blessing to somebody else. Y'all, that's hard. But not only did he preach the sermon from the cross, he showed us from the cross how to do what he was preaching. He was being broken. We on this, hey dude, we both are being crucified. We both are in pain. And the sinner says, Jesus, will you remember me when you go back home? What did I tell you about the first sermon? The first sermon is a sermon of forgiveness because they have no clue who you are. Because if they knew who you are, they would have never treated you the way they treated you. If they knew who you are, they would have never walked away. If they knew who you are, they would have never hounded you or turned. They've never, if they knew who you are. But because they don't know who you are, that's why they treated you that way. And you got to learn how to forgive them because they were clueless. Why? Because there's somebody around you that does know who you are. They just needed a little verification. Listen, had this man heard Jesus curse, he would have been like, yeah, that ain't Jesus. That ain't Jesus. Had this man saw Jesus go off, had this man saw Jesus roll his eyes, had this man saw Jesus handle it any other way other than how he handled it, the first sermon of forgiveness, I believe this man was saying, I got my confirmation. Sometimes God will put you in a place. He will put people around you because though there is somebody around you that needs confirmation of this is how I handle life when life is mishandling me. They need that confirmation. They need to see you forgive. They need to see you push forward. They need to see you do better even when you are broken. They need to see you love people that hate you. They need to see you forgive people that mistreat you so that they can say, yep, they got Jesus in them. Yep, they are Christians. Yes, they are the chosen ones. They need that confirmation. Listen, this man standing on the cross, he was able to turn to Jesus and say, yeah, you are the Son of God. Will you remember me? This was this man of saying, Jesus, can you forgive me of my sins so that I can't live? God says, as you forgive, I will forgive you. And I believe that this man heard Jesus say, Father, forgive them. And I believe that this man says, I now see who I'm sitting next to. There is somebody right now that because you have forgiven, they now understand. I lost a good one. They now understand. I should have kept them on the team. They now understand. I should have kept them as an employee. They now understand, not because of who you are right now, but because of what you did yesterday, because of the love you showed, because of the grace and the mercy. They're now saying, man, I lost a good one. Man, I should have kept them in that management position. Man, I should have done what's right by them. There are some people that'll never come back and tell you, I blew that one. I mishandled that one. But guess what made them feel that way? Your consistent walk of forgiveness and grace and mercy. And so guess what? The man is now saying, I want to be like you. Can I enter into the kingdom with you? And guess what Jesus says? Verily I say unto you, today you shall be with me. Jesus stopped dealing with his situation to bless somebody else. Ooh, y'all, that's a sermon right there. And the sermon is titled, You Got to Do It Until the End. You have got to be a Christian until the end. I know you're hurting, baby. I know you're going through. But guess what? You still got to be a representation of Christ. When? Until the end. You've got to follow it all the way through. You don't get to get midway and say, yeah, I'm checking out. I've done enough. No, you have not done enough. You've not finished. You got to finish your course. That's why the Bible tells us in the book of Timothy, you've got to fight a good fight. You've got to stay the course and you've got to finish. You've got to finish to the end. This sermon is called Until the End. Finish it until the end. Do it until the end. He says, yeah, I got you. I like that. This is probably one of my best sermons. I love it. He says, I got you. Because what Jesus is showing us, that even while bleeding, you still got to learn how to have a heart and a compassion for people. And he's graced you for it. Whoa, that's what you need to know. You have been graced for the assignment until the end. Until your very last breath, you've been graced with the assignment to still love people, to still bless people, to still want to see people grow, to still want to see people advance, to still want to see people get things that they're not titled to get. Ooh, that's good right there. You think that the people thought this man was titled to enter into paradise? Jesus, he's a sinner. I know. Jesus, you don't know what he did. I know. Jesus, he's not worthy. I know. But let me tell you something. You know you're growing in Christ when you know people don't deserve it, but you pray that they'll get it anyway. God, I yield it. I'm with you, God. When you know that's you doing it to the very end. When you know that, guess what? I know they don't deserve me praying for them. I know they don't deserve me. I'm asking God, going to God on their behalf. They don't deserve that. They don't deserve my love. They don't deserve they don't deserve it. But guess what? I gotta stay committed to the end. I gotta forgive them, and I've gotta stay committed to the very end. The man didn't tell Jesus what he did. He didn't tell. See, you got to learn how to forgive people and not be judgmental. That's good right there. Listen, because in order to still love on people and want what's best for people, you've got to walk in a spirit of non-judgmentality. You can't judge people and still want what's best for them. You've got to learn how to look at them, look beyond them, and still pray for them. You got to be able to look and see, are they on the right path? I don't know. But that's not my job. My job is not to determine if you really listen. He did this man. He didn't ask him, are you serious? Not my job. Not your job to judge people. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know if they've already told God, I need somebody in my life to turn me around. Jesus says, you got the right one. Because guess what? I'm in it. I'm true to this until the very end. Jesus was suffering. Jesus was bleeding. Jesus was hurting. And he stopped what he was going through long enough to tap into the heart of somebody else that was going through. I want you to know that sometimes God will allow you to go through situations. And guess what? God still expects us to take a moment and still be a blessing to somebody else. How can I bless you when my child is out of order and I'm trying to pray for my child? And here you are asking me to pray for your child. You were graced for it. You were favored for it. And guess what? God sent them to you to see if you was going to be true to the end. I want you to understand that the second sermon, and Jesus said unto the man, the sinner, the thief, the murderer, the adulterer, don't know his testimony. But Jesus said unto him, I got you. Today shall thou be with me. Whoo! Y'all know how deep that is? Today, I got you. You gonna be with me. When I go, you going. When I check in, you checking in. When I sit down, you sitting down. Can you imagine how amazing that is to know that you lived a life of badness, you lived a life of cruelty, and God still gives you an opportunity, even on the last day, to give your heart back to Christ, to know that you walked a bad road, and to know that even on the last day of your life, Christ will still have compassion and let you in. Christ will still have compassion and let you see a better day in paradise. Christ will still, I want you to understand, until your very last breath, you can still come home. And you can still rock in the bosoms of God. You can still sit with the Father until your very last breath. That's why it's so important that we as Christians, until the end, hold up the bloodstained banner, until the very end, represent Christ, until the very end, make sure God get the glory, until the very, I know you're going through, but until the very end, you still got to represent Christ and what Christ has put in you. You still got to remember, I've got the power through Christ Jesus to do all things. Even when I'm broken, I can still bless somebody. Oh, even when I'm at my traumatic moment, I can still turn around and encourage somebody. Even with tears coming down my eyes, I can still stop and intercede for somebody. Why? Because I got to do it until the very end. Listen, sometimes it gets hard on the journey, but no harder than being crucified. And even Jesus stopped long enough to dealing with what he was going through to say, I got you. But it took a lot for this man to see that even at the very end, Jesus was exactly who he said he was. Even on your weakest day, can people still see Christ? Even on your brokest moment, can people still see Christ? If not, second sermon I say to you, you've got to do this until the end. God bless you. All right, that's sermon number 2. You guys make sure you stay tuned to Victory Worldwide Ministries as we continue with the last 7 sermons from Christ on the cross. God bless you. See you soon.